Leigh Haas, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Warren?
Thank you. So just right out of the gate, how has NAPE been for you?
Oh, it's so much fun. The energy, no pun intended, is just it's ecstatic. It's crazy. I love it. It's a very exciting conference, and I'm happy to be here.
You know, it's funny because this is my second year here, and I love. It's like everybody wants to talk, and they want to talk business, right?
Yeah.
It's really great. So from a sales perspective, being able to meet prospects and have shameless conversations about what they need and how you can solve the problem, how has that been for you?
It's a great opportunity. I've been to several conferences all over the country, and you're not just picking up Tic Tacs and Huggies, which are great,
right,
but you're also getting to meet with the people that are making the decisions, and you're actually doing real business deals and making progress in your area. So I love that.
So that's great. And then, wow, we now have a mutual friend, David Bauman.
Yeah.
So that's your fearless leader.
My CEO.
How you like working with David?
Oh, I love it. You know, coming from political science, and I work for 5 military men with nuclear power backgrounds, and it's great. It's great. A lot of banter, but they're brilliant. They're brilliant.
First of all, for those of you that don't know, KnowledgeVine is a company that it's about safety, human performance, which doesn't mean the Olympics. We're going to get into that in a minute. But what's really neat about you, Leigh, is that when I interviewed David and Ken, and I learned all about KnowledgeVine on the Pitch podcast, you actually leveraged that as a tool to discover if this was a company that you would want to work for, and here you are in business development.
Yes, so I came from politics and then went to oil and gas. I've spent 10 years in oil and gas, building natural gas pipelines, fiber optic, solar, wind, the whole thing. A landman sent my resume to my now CEO, David Bowman, and I was trying to figure out, because when I heard human performance, I was thinking sports. I didn't know what it was either. And I went to, did some research on Google, and I found your podcast, and it was an oil and gas podcast with the CEO and the vice president.
Yeah.
And it was after that podcast that I realized the connection and how you should be able to bring human performance into the oil and gas industry, and that was almost basically the deciding factor for me to join the company.
Wow, that is such an honor, and definitely just something that I think is so cool. It's a first for me to hear that, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so let's get into KnowledgeVine, because you have this oil and gas background. What were some of the first things that you noticed about getting, learning about them, seeing how they can make an impact in the industry? For those that are saying, what is human performance? Just give us that 30-foot overview of what you guys do.
So when I first started, they basically trained me for 6 months straight. These gentlemen came from nuclear power. They wrote a literal book, and I had to teach it back to them. Wow. And I said, why? They said, because we need you to understand exactly what we do. So what I say human performance is behaviors. It's error reduction. It's not so much how people think or into sports or Olympics. It's individuals all the way to the CEOs, the leadership, the middleman, everybody. So for example, I now back into my driveway. Why? Because it's safer, and they teach you things like stop, think, act, review, which you would think are normal, basically, everyday things. But they're not, and so we work with clients, a lot of electric utility companies. We work offshore with some of on the rigs. So it's basically any industry where a human being is involved, and there's a risk for error. We can help. This is something, those of you that follow me, you might see that. Even here, I'm with Hildy, who's a practice leader at USI. So we are in energy risk, and what I tell prospects all the time, we're sitting down with CFOs every day that are in the energy space. When you guys get it wrong, not you, but I'm talking about when these businesses get it wrong, it's not just a bad day, it's a fatality, it's lives at risk, and the idea that something as simple as wearing the right gloves, that there's a system for making sure your people are actually doing all the good things, that's what I love about KnowledgeVine. So let's talk about that for a minute. If someone's watching and going, how would KnowledgeVine be the thing that could be the catalyst to make my people safer? How? So one of the things, and I will quote my boss because he's brilliant, he says, I want to catch you doing something right. And I feel like that is a very important part of what we do. we're not like OSHA. We don't go and try to find all of the things you're doing wrong. If you're not wearing the proper PPE, we want to know, why aren't you wearing the proper PPE? It's not so much, hey, you're not wearing this, you're going to get written up. And then it's the why is what is so important to us. It could be a latent organizational weakness, like they weren't given the proper PPE. So it's, it could either be the individual and their conscious decision not to wear it, or if they forgot, or it could be an organizational thing. So that's another aspect of KnowledgeVine that I really love, is the work culture and teaching the leadership, to think and act, and how they would want their team to act.
Yeah.
Lead by example. So that's really.
That's great. No, so I love that. And to dive into this a little deeper, the idea of where are these materials placed, and what is the protocol that creates these good habits?
Yeah.
I do want to ask you, because there are a lot, I see this out in the field, the people that are, I don't want to say doing it wrong, but definitely have, you can look very easily at somebody's workers' compensation modifier, and you can say, ooh, they're paying double what they should be paying because of accidents. So this is the question for you. When it comes to implementing something, there is sometimes a resistance because people don't want to create a disruption in their culture. They don't want to create like they don't want their teams to feel like, oh, great, like this is another thing. So when it comes to culture of the clients that you work with, how does that go, and what do you find really works for you in making it just a smooth and frictionless opportunity? So
we do have a system of tools and traps that we teach. It's all about training. So we do leadership classes, and one of the ways the workers are very open to our, what we're trying to teach is through positive reinforcement. So like we do 3-part communication. It's all just teaching them these core values on their behaviors in a positive way, not in a punitive aspect. So that's what I really like about it.
Okay, and then something that I'm a fan of, David Bauman is someone who I actually sat down with both of those guys, David and Ken. Their military background, they said something to me like, Warren, why do you think, don't you agree that when it comes to nuclear, people are going above and beyond to make sure there's not an accident? You can take those same principles and put it into your company. I'm speaking to you, audience. And so this is my question for you on that case, which is, when you do go, you drive up to a prospect's headquarters and you learn a little more about them, what are typically the issues that you see them suffering from that are triggering the solutions that you really have that you can help with?
I would say it's usually not on the individual level. It's a work culture, the leadership, and it could just be an ignorance thing, or it's something they didn't know they were doing wrong. But it's really, the leadership is the core of the organization, and they set the sentiment and the culture. So I think it's just like a not knowing situation, and that's why we try to find the why.
Yeah. Final question for you. I know you got to run. This conference is like crazy, isn't it?
Yes, it's wild.
So when it comes to the oil boom that's coming, I want to believe it's really coming. You see drill, baby, drill. What are some of the things that we should be thinking about?
The more pipelines we build, the more solar farms that are built, the more natural gas, the more all of it. The more any drilling that we do, that will be more human beings involved, and that is a lot more error, that potential risk for error.
Wow.
So I would say if we're going to be building pipelines, more pipelines all over the country, we need to make sure our people are safe.
Nice.
And how do we keep policy from turning against the oil companies, keeping the individuals safe that are on the pipelines and in the oil industry?
Love that. Well, thank you so much. And if somebody is interested in learning more about KnowledgeVine, what's the website?
So it's knowledgevine.com. And we also have our Human Performance and Action Conference this March 17th through the 19th in San Antonio.
Wow.
So, if you want to just go full force, rip the Band-Aid off and learn as much as you can, we have the conference. And I'm also on LinkedIn. David Bowman is on LinkedIn, and we have our KnowledgeVine LinkedIn account as well.
Terrific. I'll put a link for the event in the comments for all the Oil and Gas Global Network. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.